Meanwhile, on the comic box, the Defenders. Did they defend? Maybe. This is part 2 of a crossover with Geektitude. So if you haven't listened to part 1, go listen to that first and then come on back. Kick it, Joe.
Bum 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 bum.
Comics. That was perfect. That was beautiful. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Comic Box. This is episode 60. Oh, you have issue 63 of the Comic Box, part of the Geek to Geek podcast network. I am Rob, your friendly neighborhood comic geek, and joining me this week is Joe from Geektitude. What up, Joe?
Hello. How are you doing today?
Good. Something is dinging weird on my end, and I think it's my monitor. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fix that by unplugging my monitor and turning it off. I tried fixing it. I had a monitor issue last week. It didn't work out, but now I think we'll be okay. Can you hear me still?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I swapped out monitors in my little audio booth. I call it the Harry Potter cupboard under the stairs here, where I have my little setup. And last time we were recording for your episode just a couple days ago, I was having weird issues where the monitor wasn't working. It was just flashing. And so I swapped it out this time for another spare monitor I had. But apparently the reason I wasn't using that one is because of a resolution issue with my laptop and this very old monitor. It sort of blinks on and off when it's connected. And I'm sure there's somebody out there that's smarter than me that knows how to fix that issue. But that's okay. It just means I'm recording in the dark again.
Well, it's funny because it's like printers are the absolute worst. Like that's the thing that will just frustrate you just because it's evil.
Yes.
But monitors are one of those things that when they go, you're so dependent on it. Like that's it.
Yeah.
You're out. You're done.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe I just need to invest in another monitor, which is fine. I've been planning on updating the booth here instead of sitting. Like I've literally crammed. Think a very. What's a good way of putting this? It's slightly wider than the door. It's literally, the width of the staircase, right?
Mm-hmm,
and I sit sideways in here on a chair tucked under a TV tray that is just large enough for my wireless mouse, my microphone, and a monitor. And that's it. That's my little audio booth. So I think there's some upgrading. I can try and mount the monitor on the wall or something, but that would take a new monitor. So yeah, it gives me an excuse, and that's just fine.
Absolutely. Yes.
So, yeah. Anyway, this week we are talking part 2 of the Defenders, like I said in the opening. But first, of course, we need to get to the weekly geekery. Now, important to note, we are 3 days removed from when we recorded part 1 over on Geektitude. So you have had 3 days to get as geeky as possible. And that had to include watching the rest of the Defenders. So what do you got for us, Joe?
Well, I actually kind of lucked out because I had 3 days of kind of time that allowed for some geekiness, and so one of the things I'm doing is on a recommendation, a listener of mine, Nick Kelly, was very nice enough to gift me a graphic novel of on Kindle of Daredevil, and I'm gonna get the name wrong, so I'm gonna kind of try and sneak a look at the title while I'm talking. Born Again. Daredevil, yeah. Born Again.
Okay.
And he said this may be what they're gonna do with season 3 of Daredevil.
Yes.
So that is what I have been, because I'm an English teacher, and so we do SSR, which is silent sustained reading, which means the kids come in and read for 10 minutes at the beginning of class.
That's nice.
And and then we're supposed to model it. We're not supposed to grade papers then. We're not supposed to print out handouts or whatever. We're supposed to be reading with the kids to kind of model, hey, reading's cool. So I have been reading Daredevil during class time.
How do you like it? Now, it's one of the big ones that I have never read. And I've heard it's dark, but it's really good.
It's very dark. And it's good so far. I'm not a solo comic book guy. Like, I like team books because I feel like there's a lot of stuff that goes on. It's kind of like a TV series where you can focus on different characters on different panels, and it's not one person all the time. And yeah, that's just kind of the way I consume comics. Like I like Avengers. I don't like Iron Man. As far as just what I'm going to sit down and read.
Sure.
And so this is a little bit different for me. It's not bad. It's very kind of gritty and interesting. But I haven't gotten to the end yet. I'm curious how it's gonna resolve itself. I'm about halfway through.
Okay. All right. And your dog loves it, apparently.
I apologize. My husband just went to go see what the hell is going on, because normally he's not like this at this time of day.
No, it's perfectly fine. Because whenever I have the dogs here, every once in a while we watch my in-laws' dogs for them, and they're German Shepherd mixes. So, yeah, if they get excited about something, they're excited about something. They get pretty loud.
Yeah. Well, he's getting his cone taken off because he just got fixed a week ago, and tomorrow's the last day of the cone. I think he's just done.
I'll bet. I would be too.
Yes.
Cool, man. I've heard that's really good. It is on my list, and I agree with you. I definitely think, and I suppose we can get into that a little later, but I definitely think that this might be where they go next, because I think it's a logical progression of the story at this point for Daredevil. As your friendly neighborhood comic book geek, though, as far as team books going on right now, if I can make a couple suggestions, I would say The Champions. If you're not reading Champions, I think you would dig. And if you want to go into something with a backlog, give Young Justice a look. Like, it's very much a comic of its day, which is sort of 90s into the 2000s.
Lots of pockets?
No. It's not. I don't mean it that way. I mean, like, there's jokes about Hanson.
Okay.
Like, the one guy spray paints Hanson sucks on the wall, and you know, there's Xena references and things like that. But no, beyond that, it's just because that was sort of, if you would, kind of what Teen Titans eventually became. It sort of came out of Young Justice, but it started as Robin, Superboy, and Impulse, who later became Kid Flash and then became the Flash, and that's a whole nother episode just all about Flash stuff. But it was one of my favorite comics ever, and it's written by Peter David, who's known for doing really good team books because he wrote X Factor for years. Might even still be writing X Factor. I honestly don't know anymore. But yeah, those I would say are probably some of my favorite team books that are also lighter reads as well, so they're a little more enjoyable to read and would be a good palate cleanser after something like Daredevil.
Yeah, because it's heavy.
Yes.
It's heavy, and it's having not read a lot of Daredevil before this, I'm like, there's some stuff that's happening to these characters that hadn't happened in the Netflix series. Like, they're in different places in their lives.
Yes, very much so. And also just things that really hadn't happened in comics as well. That comic decided it went to some really, really dark places, but that's what sort of set it aside. And then there's other runs on, there's a recent run on Daredevil by Mark Waid that's supposedly just this light, bright, super happy Daredevil book. That's just the total opposite, which is great because it gives you, and I haven't read it, but I love the idea of characters can be taken any way you want. You can do a fun Daredevil book, and then you can turn around and do a dark Daredevil book, and it all works out.
Well, and that's interesting because I always think of, when I think of Mark Waid, I think of Horribleness, because I remember his run on Irredeemable and Incorruptible.
Okay, now I haven't read either of those.
It's like, what would happen if Superman just lost his mind and decided to go all evil?
Interesting.
And it's dark.
Well,
it's real dark.
You know, Mark Waid also had a celebrated and very long run on The Flash, the Wally West Flash, as well as he wrote Kingdom Come, which, again, kind of a dark story, but also really good.
I have a feeling he goes back and forth. He goes dark and then he palate cleanses.
That might be absolutely true. Yeah. And I think there's a lot of other writers that do that stuff as well. Because the other one, and I'm just going to say it since you're on my podcast, it has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but another one I think you would really like, you might have to get a little past the weirdness, but read Silver Surfer by Dan Slott and Mike Allred.
Okay.
It is, if you want a comic that you will smile every time you read an issue or drop a tear. Like, it's very pop art kind of. with the style, but they're all one and done issues. So like if you pick up a trade, you're not necessarily going to be left with any cliffhangers or something. You could buy a single trade or even a single random issue of that comic. There are some I'm sure that are better than others, but in general, each one is its own little episode in this ongoing story of the Silver Surfer and a girl from Earth, or woman from Earth rather, that he takes with him as they just travel around seeing weird, unusual things. It's totally disconnected from the rest of Marvel, and that's perfect in this run. And it's ending, I think, this month.
I will have to go check it out. Dan Allred, and who's the other one?
It's Dan Slott and Mike Allred. But you could just look up Silver Surfer, and if it looks cartoony, it's this run. If it looks like pop art, it's this run, because otherwise he's usually drawn very seriously, or like with computer art where he actually looks like he's Silver.
All right, I will check that out. And because I'm also trying to look for recommendations for my students, because they some of them don't like reading, and so we try to fix that, and we start with comics.
Oh, yeah. Silver Surfer would be really good. I mean, I'm trying to think of things that wouldn't get you in trouble because of some sort of, sexual content or something. Champions is a bunch of young heroes. I've heard Miss Marvel is great, but I never read it. Boy, yeah, a lot of the ones that I really like have either a lot of violence or at least the capability of having, violence or adult situations. I love light stuff as well. It's just I never stuck with all of them, or even some of the lighter ones will still have people getting drunk or something in them.
Well, I may have been known in the past of giving Fables or Walking Dead to students that I'm just like, if you don't like this, you're not going to like reading, and there's nothing I can do for you.
That's fair. But I'm thinking, like, will people say, oh, if people don't read comics, what do you give them? And people will be like, Saga. And it's like,
yeah, no, I don't know. I could do Saga.
Yeah, like the first panel is the two main characters having sex.
Right.
So probably not Saga. But you might be able to get away, like Lumberjanes would be a really fun read for especially female students, or just anybody who likes something that's very light and fun because it's just like a kid's cartoon.
Yeah, and I think I haven't read it yet, but it's on my list. Paper Girls?
Oh, Paper Girls is really good too. I mean, there's swearing and stuff in Paper Girls, and I'm trying to remember if there's nudity in it or not. Brian K. Vaughan usually doesn't shy away from that stuff, but that would be a good call as well. Or you could simply go and find some runs of, I suppose we can talk offline about it, because now I'm sitting here, my brain is swimming with, what would I give a group of high school students? And it so depends, because I know what I loved in high school. I was reading Green Lantern and Young Justice, and I was I getting into, no, I didn't get into Walking Dead until college. I don't think it was even out yet when I was in high school. But I was reading like Infinity War and the Infinity Gauntlet, and those big cosmic things were what I was into. And then I liked my fun little stories like Young Justice. And JLA was the big one for me. Grant Morrison's JLA run I thought was fantastic. That was one of probably my other main book in high school. But it wasn't until college that I really branched out and started getting more into indie comics and some of the really fun stuff that's out there. And as a teacher, I think I don't know where you have to draw the line of what you're able to give to students. I mean, but if you're doing Walking Dead, I don't know. But yeah, we can talk.
Well, again, with those like Walking Dead and Fables, it'll be like, okay, I know this student. Is this going to go poorly? Or I know the student's parent. Is this going to go poorly for me? Yeah. We got to figure it out. But yeah, so that's what I've been reading that, cool. And then I am an hour and 20 minutes from finishing the finale of The Adventure Zone. So I will be done by the time I get to work tomorrow.
Now, when you say the finale, do you mean the last episode or the Adventure Zone where they recap?
No, I just the last episode. I haven't done the Adventure Zone, but that will be tomorrow on the drive home.
Cool. Okay. All right. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on that as well.
So you're all through it?
Oh yeah.
Because I mean, I'll be very honest. I'm a sentimental kind of guy, and there have been like I cried multiple times on the way both to and from work today.
That's great. That's great. I mean, drive carefully.
Yes.
But no, that's great. Yeah, I didn't. I feel like I wasn't paying enough attention through maybe the last sort of section of it, because I listen to it when I like clean or do dishes or if I'm driving to work, but my mind might still be somewhere else. Drive safe, kids. So I feel like I didn't have as much emotional impact. Like they were referencing like characters from the Stolen Century that I didn't even remember who they were.
Right.
Kind of, like, so I don't know. I feel like maybe I was more invested in some of the earlier things that I could remember more clearly. But it is good. I will say that they did a really good job. And then hearing the Adventure Zone where they wrap it up and start asking some of the bigger questions that people had, I thought was really good as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, especially because I still at some point am planning on doing that actual play. So I want to hear the behind the scenes creative process behind it.
Yeah, basically it comes down to, I think, lots and lots of time and creativity.
Yeah. I know. I hope I have one. I'm not sure about the other.
That's why it's a group effort.
Yes.
One way or the other.
Yes. How about you?
So in the last 3 days, and I actually remembered some things that I previously did that I didn't mention on your show. So I read a comic called Spider-Man Reign,
Okay.
Reign, and it is a very weird book. I wasn't sure what it was, but I had always recognized the cover. It shows Peter Parker sort of hanging on a grave and he's all beaten up. And it's a future story where he's like old and retired and the government's been like taken over. And think of it as The Dark Knight.
Okay.
If you've ever read, The Dark Knight Returns, where Batman basically comes out of retirement after years and years and years. Think that, but with Spider-Man.
Okay.
It's very weird. Like J. Jonah Jameson is leading this little like mini cult of like newsboy kids because he's still trying to speak truth to power. And it's a weird comic. I don't know if I can even say that I liked it, but I'm happy I read it because I'm always happy when I read something new. I finished reading the first volume of Grant Morrison's Doom Patrol, which is exactly what I thought it was going to be. It's all these I talked a little bit on your show about it, these very weighty ideas that deal with, imagination if it were a physical substance and just really far out there kind of stuff. And I don't know if I'm going to keep reading. I understand why it was such a big deal and why people liked it, but I usually don't like comics. This is going to make me sound dumb. I don't like comics that make me think that much.
Gotcha.
Because I'm reading like right before I fall asleep at night. So I have my superhero comics. I don't mind indie comics and stuff. I don't mind things that are cool. But when it gets into really metaphysical stuff, I start running into problems. Like there was a run of The Spectre, and this might be deep cuts for some people, but I really liked it. And it's where Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern, served as the host for The Spectre. And it talks about how on each planet, this Spectre, who serves as the wrath of God or a spirit of redemption, is kind of what he's trying to turn it into instead of wrath. He appears differently to each culture because it's what they believe that spirit should look like. And then it gets into characters that are the physical embodiment of ideas, or thoughts. And Marvel did this as well. And I really always liked it when Starlin would do this in the Silver Surfer comics or in the Infinity series, where you had the physical embodiment of, justice or the physical embodiment of chaos kind of thing. But just sometimes it gets too heady for me, and Grant Morrison really gets out there. But I finished watching that. I was super excited to go on Hulu and finally start watching Legion.
Oh, yeah.
It's not on Hulu anymore.
No.
This is why, right? This is why I hate Hulu. Like, some shows, they have all the episodes. Others, they pull episodes after a couple of weeks. And there is no Legion for me to watch unless I'm missing something. But I tried searching for it. So I instead started watching season 2 of Fear the Walking Dead.
Okay.
Because I was going to plan on watching that as well. And all I ended up doing is actually watching the last episode of season 1 since it's been so long. So I haven't actually gotten into season 2 yet, but that's where I'm at. And that inspired me to listen to the Zombies Run app when I went for a walk on my lunch break today.
Oh, nice.
So I'm hoping to try and get back into getting fit. But yes, that is it for my weekly geekery. I don't know what I'm reading next for comics, and I don't know. I think Fear the Walking Dead's only a few episodes, so we'll see how fast I get through. But I'll be busy this weekend because I'm going to Duluth because I'm doing the Duluth Superior Pride Festival.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I am the one of 2 MCs for the musical, and I guess there's some drag shows and stuff. So we'll say the entertainment on the big stage.
Nice.
Up in Duluth. My buddy Bob and I play guitar together, and we are ridiculous. And we are Brob because I am Rob and he is Bob, and together we are Brob. So, yeah. All right. So we can move into, I guess, news with a ba-da-bop-do-dip-a-dip-a-dip news. because I just have the one piece, because we can say it now, because I noticed on your episode there was a new commercial.
Yes.
For a brand new show on the Geek to Geek podcast network. And I've been waiting to talk about this for a couple weeks because we're super, super excited. And it is Tea Time with Katie and Chelsea has officially joined the podcast network.
I think that's like one of the best auditions. Oh my God. I've been speaking all day and I can't word. I think that's one of the best additions we've had to the network because they're just a completely different perspective than we're used to. And I love that.
Yes. And it's a great show too. We all started listening to it when the suggestions were sort of coming in of shows that might be good additions. And that was actually quite a while ago. And we just kind of were sort of lazy around, getting to everybody and talking to everybody about who we thought was good to join. So I've been listening to the show for a while. And yeah, I enjoy it. I wrote them a review that they read on the air. And it was very much like, you don't listen to their podcast and not smile because they're laughing through like all of it.
It's so true.
Just to hear two geeky friends geek out that hard and have that much fun on something is absolutely wonderful. So wanted to say a big welcome to them. We will actually have Chelsea on the show next week, joining us from Northern Ireland. So we're playing around a bit with times, making sure we got that recording time down right. But we're actually recording tomorrow. So the day after this is being, I don't know when this episode is going out, because the episode here won't go out until the weekend. By that time, it will have been several days. Time travel, everybody. Point is, I'm recording 2 episodes in just a couple of days, so I'll be ahead for once on podcasts. But I think we're going to be talking DC Comics, because she's a big DC fan.
That's awesome. I'm looking forward to listening to that, because that's definitely not one of my areas of Geektitude.
Yeah, and it's going to be a blast. I'm really looking forward to it. But that means that we're going to take a quick break and we're going to listen to their commercial and we're going to listen to the Geek to Geek commercial. And I don't know why I don't throw them all together. You, sir, and I haven't listened to it yet, but you just posted on the group Twitter that you also cut a new commercial.
I did. When Void, who is one of the nicest people in the world, starts guilt shaming you about not having a promo, I'm like, all right, I have to now, because like he's even throwing shade, and so it is there, and it is as like 30-second promo that takes an hour to cut, but I think I'm okay with it. I think it's okay.
Cool. Well, I look forward to hearing it for the first time, as is, I'm sure, the literal tens of listeners to this show, all of whom I love because they are all fantastic. All right, we will be right back.
Hi, my name is Joe Hogan, and I'm a geek. And if you're currently listening to this, there's a good chance you're a geek too. So check out my podcast, Geektitude. Each week, I talk with somebody about their geek aptitude. Sometimes I talk to people in a geeky profession. Sometimes it's someone doing something really cool with their geekiness. Often it's another geeky podcaster. But it's always someone who wants to share their inner geek. So join me each week as we come together to geek out about all the geeky stuff we love. And remember, this week, keep it geek.
Hey everyone, I'm Katie.
And I'm Chelsea, and we're the hosts of the podcast
Tea Time with Katie and Chelsea.
We are 2 best friends who love pop culture. We try to have a female perspective on things, but we really just talk about anything we like. What are some recent topics we've done, Katie?
Well, we've talked about girl power songs, Wonder Woman, Veronica Mars, young adult fiction novels, San Diego Comic-Con, and so much more. So grab your cup of tea or whatever your drink of choice is and download our podcast on iTunes or Stitcher and start listening today.
I'm Void.
And I'm Beej.
And together, we're the Geek to Geek podcast. Well, we make it. It is kind of us, but I guess it's separate.
Every week, we pick a topic from geek or digital culture and chat about it for a while.
And you're invited. We talk about books and movies, games, comics, the internet.
Or really whatever we feel like.
Yeah, that too.
So look for the Geek to Geek podcast on iTunes.
Or wherever your podcasts are sold. Or downloaded. Or whatever.
And we are back. And as of this, because we didn't technically take a break to listen to it, I haven't heard it yet, but I assume it's fantastic.
It's good. I don't know that it's fantastic. I don't want to get people's hopes up.
You start by going, I'm Joe. And I'm Joe. And we're both the Geektitude. No.
I do start with hi, I'm Joe. So, that's not too far off. I'm looking forward to hearing your impression of me.
I will work hard. I'll work hard on it, and I'll do an episode of everybody on the Geek to Geek podcast network, and it'll just be me. And I'll just dub over myself multiple times to be multiple people.
Yeah, for people who don't know what we're talking about, when we recorded part 1 of this and I went to my commercial break, Rob basically did the entire Geek to Geek commercial in perfect voice work for both Void and Beige. And
I'm not a good person. Yeah.
And so I am now holding that as blackmail for when I need future favors.
That's perfectly fine. Is it out of your episode? Did you cut it out of yours?
I had to cut it out of my episode because it was running long, and I figured it would be much more entertaining for either like their 100th episode or my 100th. Like it's got to be used appropriately. I feel like it's definitely too good to just throw in a random episode.
An episode with me ran long? No. Yeah, I'm currently listening to it. I have, it looks like 20 minutes left because it must have been an hour and a half long. Because, okay, I'm an hour into listening to our episode, but I haven't finished yet. Okay, anyway, the Geek to Geek Podcast Network. We are both members of this network. We both have shows. We would appreciate you guys listening to all of our shows. And those star ratings and reviews really, really help. We don't pay to advertise. We pay to do the podcast because we have to pay for hosting and all sorts of stuff. Help us out, won't you? Now let's get into our topic. Yeah. All right, let's get into our topic of the week with a topic of the week. And our topic this week is part 2, if you will, of The Defenders, episodes 5 through 8. You just finished watching these, so I just want to start with your broad... Well, I suppose first, spoilers, everybody. If you haven't finished watching The Defenders, go and do that, then come back. Enough said. Joe, what did you think of the second half of the show?
I really enjoyed it, and I have to... I'm gonna let you in on something. One of my best friends sent me a text today, and he has been criticizing me for my... And it's valid. It's a valid criticism that my review shows between you and Ray are downers, and that I am not very clear on how much I like these properties. So I'm going to be very clear at the beginning of this. I very much enjoyed The Defenders, and I was sad that it was only 8 episodes.
Interesting. I liked The Defenders. I didn't think it is my favorite of the Netflix shows. There's some good moments in there, but I think there were also a lot of letdowns, and I was perfectly happy with, I think 8 episodes would be perfect for all of the Marvel Netflix shows moving forward, because I think they all suffer from a mid-season lag, and I think cutting out those extra 4 episodes would force them to tighten the plot.
I wouldn't disagree, but I feel like there was more plot that they could have put in there, and they may have tightened it too much on this one.
I would say that for this one, I would have liked to have seen more of all of the supporting cast.
Exactly.
But every time you give them more time, you're pulling away from the main story. And that was kind of the thing I was talking about on your show about, to me, it would have been better if Jessica Jones, was the B-plot through the whole thing, because I don't feel like she's supposed to be a defender right off the bat, kind of like she was after a couple episodes when everybody gets together. I would love for her to have been this whole B-plot of investigation, and then everything wrapping up, and her sort of joining in towards the end.
Yeah, I think I would have preferred to see, because they kind of hinted to it with Trish kind of trying to look into the earthquakes and the fact that Karen is an investigative reporter at this point. I felt like they had this opportunity for them to actually bring in the last piece of information that the defenders needed to go off and fight, and or send the hand after, really send the hand after their friends when they're all together, and make their friends have to fight themselves out. Just because I feel like there's so many missed opportunities by throwing that oddball collection of people in one room that wasn't explored at all.
I agree. I didn't get nearly enough Claire Temple or Trish. Yeah, and obviously Madame Gao, I assume our statements on Madame Gao stand. Is she got more to do, but still not enough.
No, I love Madame Gao. I mean, she is just such a great, complex, kind of evil character that, I mean, again, this is a spoiler cast. I'm sure we have not seen the last of Madame Gao. If we have, I'm going to be bummed.
I'm just going to be upset because I think Madame Gao is going to end up being the villain in Iron Fist if they do. I think they're doing a season 2 of Iron Fist rather than being the villain in Daredevil. And I would much rather see Daredevil versus the Hand. I know because they retconned Iron Fist into being, the enemy of the Hand, but unless that's a thing that I'm unaware of from the comics. I know it was always the Kunlun connection, but maybe I don't know my Iron Fist well enough. But all right. So can we just straight dive into the 3 big twists?
Sure.
So twist number 1, obviously, is Alexandra and Elektra.
Yes.
What did you think of this plot twist?
I didn't see it coming. So that was a good thing because I think because I study literature and I've studied film and, I do theater, I kind of spoil things for myself. Like I knew about the whole Elektra judoing Iron Fist into the door to open it. Like I saw that coming when they captured him. Like I knew that that's how it was going to happen because you just kind of, there's tropey things that just kind of have to happen. And so I tend to, it's very rare that something surprises me in one of these shows. And that one I didn't see coming at all.
No, I didn't. I don't know that I saw it coming, but when it did, for those that don't care about spoilers and aren't bothering to watch the show, Elektra, who is the returned girlfriend of Daredevil, ends up sort of becoming the new big bad in a sense by killing the leader of the Hand, who was played by Sigourney Weaver. For me, was kind of this exit Sigourney Weaver, and I was like, thanks for nothing. It's almost a Joss Whedon pull where it's like you start to introduce this character or you build them up as a threat and then you immediately pull the rug out and dismiss them from the show, wipe them out or kill them or whatever. But I feel like they were trying to give us more from Sigourney Weaver than we got before she got killed. Like she was still kind of a flat villain to me.
So I don't know what Sigourney Weaver's character was doing in this series at all. Like I felt like she didn't play enough of a role to justify her being there, especially because she was such a big name. And I felt like because she was a bigger name than everybody else, it made it just awkward.
I still say Madame Gao was supposed to be the big bad of this season, and then you can have Elektra in there, but maybe it was because they didn't want Elektra killing Madame Gao. But even the idea of Elektra as leader of the Hand, and then obviously the Hand goes from being, millions of ninjas to like 10, in a cave. And with the end, like, I don't look at the ending. So, all right. I'm tripping over my own thoughts here because I have so many of them. The idea of Elektra as leader of the Hand, I'm okay with, but I think it's unearned. I think she would need to work harder, longer in order for her to get to that place. Let her decide to go off on her own and like become an assassin and do like in the comics where she works for the Kingpin for a while and that sort of thing, and then bring her back and she reappears after being gone for a year and we find out that now she's the leader of the Hand or something like that. I think just an immediate, I killed your boss, therefore I'm in charge, felt kind of weird. Also, as the Black Sky or whatever, they were also really arbitrary about explaining if she had any actual metahuman abilities.
Yeah.
Like, was she supposed to be really strong or resilient or something?
I think so, but they didn't. Well, I think anybody who comes back from the dead by the Hand does have some sort of higher level resistance and strength.
Right. Like,
yeah, maybe not.
It's implied, but not stated. So I don't know. I guess that was fine. Like, I'm all for the plot twist. It's just I don't think the payoff was me actually being more impressed. I was happy I saw it was something I didn't see coming, but beyond that, plot twist 2 is the actual literal dragon under the streets of New York City and what was behind the big door that only Iron Fist can open. And the idea that the Hand is made up of people that were in Kunlun and just kind of want to go back to Kunlun and use dragon bone, I guess, to make a thing that keeps them alive indefinitely. Your thoughts on the giant dragon under New York City?
There was part of me that was like, is it going to be Fing Fang Foom? But no, it's not going to be Fing Fang Foom. But then it ended up being a dead dragon. So I was like, I was close. I felt like it was so mystical and everything. And then they're like, oh, we're just going to take, saws to the bones. I felt like they could have done something cool with it and they didn't.
Right.
I don't know. How do you feel about it?
It was another thing that I thought was neat once we saw it and realizing that this is a thing. I thought it didn't need to necessarily be in the exact shape of the Iron Fist symbol. But I thought it was it felt very like when we talked on your show about things being comic booky in terms of the visuals.
Mm-hmm.
This was the really first time in any of the Netflix shows that I sat back and said, that's really comic booky. Like that felt Stan Lee Marvel Comics level. There's a dead dragon underneath the streets of New York City.
That is true.
Like,
yes.
And so I could see some people thinking it's sort of jumping the shark and going to a really ridiculous place when everything else is grounded in reality. But I will say that felt very Marvel Comics to me.
I would definitely agree.
And so in that sense, I forgave it. And I would say the third plot twist was, I suppose, the ending. Now I feel like I forgot. I feel like there was an actual third plot twist that was sort of in there that for whatever reason I'm not remembering. But I'll go with just sort of the ending of the Daredevil and Elektra dying, kind of sort of just kidding. Daredevil is still alive and being cared for by nuns. I guess because he's Catholic and they have a Catholic sense, so they found him?
Maybe. I think that's where what I'm reading right now is going to start tying into that, because that is the spot that I got to right now in the comic book where he is being cared for by nuns. So I don't know who the nuns are yet. I have some thoughts, but I don't know for sure.
Okay. And now, I guess as an overarching complaint, I could have done totally without the Daredevil Elektra love thing. I would have much rather have seen Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and Claire Temple having a love triangle throughout the show, because I think that was on a more personal level. And the whole Daredevil Elektra conceit is this big thing that happened in the past, this old flame, and they kind of rekindle it throughout the course of season 2 of Daredevil. And then he's obviously hurt by the fact that she's back, but it felt so CW to me the whole time that I was having a really hard time feeling bad for Daredevil. Like, I didn't, it seemed too dramatic to me. And then the end, we're punching each other. Just kidding. We're making out. Just kidding. We're dead now. I thought was kind of weird. I don't know. What did you think about, were you cool with that? Did you like that love story element?
I didn't like Elektra in Daredevil 2. Okay. I felt like she was just, I have trouble understanding her motivation in any of this, because I feel like she's just coming off as evil for evil's sake. Like there's really, I'm struggling to understand why she's doing, what her motivation is for a lot of this stuff. So I'm not a huge Elektra fan in Netflix.
Okay.
I think that the redemption story would have been better, but I feel like, I don't know, it got lost in the translation somewhere.
Yeah. There's just too much going on, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Because I liked her being in there, but I would have much rather her be like the bad guy, and then maybe she does take over the hand or do whatever, and then disappears at the end, because it gives us something else to go for in season 3 of Daredevil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I remember what the other twist was, just for me personally, Misty Knight. Misty Knight's arm.
Oh,
perfect. Because they teased it. They teased it in Luke Cage.
They did.
Where she was worried if it's too tight, she'll lose that arm. I'm like, oh, please, gimme. And then she loses her arm. What I didn't like was the idea that Danny Rand owns it and they do cool things with technology. And I said this on my podcast and my initial thoughts after the Defenders. It was just say the name Stark.
Mm-hmm.
Just do it, because we want her to have an arm just like the Winter Soldier, because it looks the same in the comics. And it was like, just say the name Tony Stark. Don't tell me Danny Rand makes robot arms now.
Well, he apparently has everything now. Like he owns the hospital. He owns I know he's rich and he owns Rand Industries, but I thought there was a lot of, I thought it was a pharmaceutical conglomerate. I didn't realize it had its hands in as many things as it did.
Exactly. So of course they also own the hospital. That you'd think there's a law against that, like movie theaters that own distribution as well as like the studios or something. Because I don't know, but okay. It seems like they're going to do their best to say it's connected to the MCU without ever actually connecting it to the MCU. Or maybe I will eat my hat and we'll get at least one shot of them in Infinity War. At which point I don't know what I will do. Cry.
Yeah,
tears of joy.
Complete joy.
Yeah.
And I think that's what, I mean, like I said at the beginning of the show, that I really did enjoy it, and I did. We pick it apart. But I think what I loved was I just loved seeing them fight together. Like, I loved seeing them figure things out. I felt like there was enough angst to keep the characters real, but not so much that it was, okay, we got it, move on. Except maybe a little too much from Daredevil.
Yes.
But Jessica Jones was the kind of added the comedy. I feel like there was a missed opportunity, and I understand the logistics of it would probably been a little bit rough. But there was one point where Luke Cage looks at Iron Fist and says, "Light that thing up."
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, a fastball special would be so cool here right now. But
is that a thing they do?
I don't know that it's a thing they do, but I feel like just in comics in general, like they wouldn't call it that, but I feel like the big guy picking up the little guy and throwing him is just a thing that you do.
Okay. So I was going to say, normally that's Colossus and Wolverine.
Right.
Fastball special. But no, I got you there. And I will, yeah. And I was going to move into the things that we liked as well, because I wanted to end on an up note. Like, of all the different endings, right? Because we get all the different epilogues.
Mm-hmm.
Those did excite me. I'm curious to see where Daredevil goes. I loved the shot where you think it's Daredevil on the rooftop, and then the fist lights up and it's Iron Fist looking out over the city. Because in the comics, when Daredevil needs to try and convince the world that he and Matt Murdock are two different people, Iron Fist takes over as Daredevil for a while because no one really missed Iron Fist.
Right.
That's canon in the comics, and I hope that's what happens. I want to see Danny Rand in the Daredevil costume trying to figure it out or do whatever, because I wasn't a huge fan of Daredevil suddenly shifting from Hell's Kitchen is my city to New York is my city. Like, I get it, but the personal idea of just protecting those few blocks, that's Hell's Kitchen, that neighborhood, I thought, and calling it my city, to me was more dramatic. But again, that's a negative. I'm excited for that. The one thing that I want to see, though, is not another season of Iron Fist. But the other thing I really want to see is I want a Luke Cage Iron Fist show. Don't give me season 2 of Luke Cage or season 2 of Iron Fist. Give me Luke Cage and Iron Fist, and then make your B plot the Daughters of the Dragon, Misty Knight, and Colleen Wing partnering up. Please give me that. I don't need a second Luke Cage, and I don't need an Iron Fist. I think they did so well together in this show because I love Luke Cage and I can't stand Iron Fist that I want to see that show together.
I would say this is what I would do. I would replace Luke Cage, the season of Luke Cage, with Luke Cage Iron Fist, and I would give Iron Fist season 2 a Daughters of the Dragon series. Like, I want to see more of those two characters. Give us an excuse why the boys are out of town, and let's have a good, strong female duo doing some sort of investigation. I think that that's something that would sell. I think it's something that fans would get excited about because both of those characters are exceedingly strong. Just in the Netflix alone, I mean, they have a whole legacy in the comic books, but they've done such good things, I think, with those two characters. I want to see so much more.
Yeah, I really like the character of Colleen Wing, and I said it in your episode as well, that I thought we had a lot of missed opportunities. She gets some chances to shine in here. That is absolutely true, and maybe it was just because I was binging the show, but I felt like she didn't get quite enough. I felt like she was either running at 100 or at 0, and we didn't get anything else in between. But yes, because I really like her. Now, let me throw this out at you, and I don't know that it's a good idea, but here's a random... So in the comic books, the Daughters of the Dragon are known in the Marvel Universe as a detective agency called Nightwing Investigations. Because Misty Knight, Colleen Wing, no relation to Dick Grayson or the DC Comics universe. But we already have a female-led detective show. What if Misty Knight and Colleen Wing join Alias Investigations?
I would be totally down for that as long as we get Hellcat.
Okay, because the worry there is Jessica Jones really is kind of a solo thing, and I don't see her needing other people in the investigations, but I would worry about people complaining that we would have 2 Netflix shows about female private eyes instead of diversifying that a little bit more. As much as I absolutely want to see it, because I love that idea of a season of Luke Cage and Iron Fist and then a season of Daughters of the Dragon. You would totally get people coming out to watch that.
Absolutely.
But I'm just, and not to lump all the women into one show either, obviously.
No, but you know what? There's nothing, I don't think there's anything wrong with that because I think we're living in a post Wonder Woman world. Yes. And I think it's now clear, as it should have been all along, but I understand that we had to get there first. I think it's clear that women-driven superhero movies can be a thing and should be a thing. And so the more we get, the more normalized it's going to be, and it should be that.
Right. But in that sense, I mean, there's no reason we couldn't have 2 female-led Marvel Netflix shows.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. But I will say, in the end, there were things that I liked. I did like some of the fight stuff. I felt like some of them were a little bit like an episode of Angel, where they're trying to shoot like a group fight scene and figure out how to do it well, with actors that aren't necessarily, have done a lot of combat training. But in general, I did enjoy it. I thought it was good. I think if I go back to watch anything, I'll probably go back and watch the Daredevils and then Jessica Jones, I think. I don't know when that would be or if that'll be, but I feel like I want to go back and rewatch Daredevil season 2 before the Punisher gets going, which I want to say is supposed to be sometime this fall. I feel like a bad comic nerd for not knowing the exact date. But yeah, I did like it. I just want to see more Madame Gao, and I want to see Luke Cage and Iron Fist. I was really impressed with Luke Cage in this whole show. He was the standout character for me, for sure.
I would definitely agree. And I let me know when you're binging Daredevil season 2, because I want to give that another try, because it's my least favorite out of everything right now. Well, except Iron Fist, but we're not going to talk about that anymore. So that, as far as that goes, I'd say that's the second to the bottom for me. And I don't know if it was just where I was at the time, or if it was because I didn't give it my full attention when I was watching it. And so I kind of let me know, and I can tweet back and forth.
And for me, it's really more about reintroducing myself to their version of the Punisher. I think my favorite season of Netflix Marvel is still Daredevil season 1. But and I understand why some people were turned off by the violence, but I love that Rocky type story of the guy who just keeps getting knocked down and keeps getting back up.
Right.
And that, out of all the other shows, I mean, I think it's sort of the same story across the board, just in different ways, obviously. Jessica Jones is also trying to pick herself back up constantly. And Luke Cage is trying to put his life back together, and Danny Rand is trying to put his life back together, but in a completely different sense, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm just very drawn to those types of characters. I'm inspired by those types of stories. But yeah, absolutely. I will let you know. Now, before we end here, I need to know what you want to see, because we got all these different epilogues, and we talked Luke Cage and Iron Fist and Daughters of the Dragon. Is there something else that you are extra excited to see coming out of the end of The Defenders?
The Daughters of the Dragon was the thing that I enjoyed the most, because I really loved Colleen Wing and Misty Knight. I thought they just had great chemistry. I worry that just repeat. I think it's a little bit what we were already talking about. The don't give us season 2s of a lot of these. We don't need new things. Like I would be perfectly fine if every Netflix series from this point on is a different combination of people.
Sure. Yeah. That's a great idea.
Because I think you're going to get more interesting stories that way. I think, again, I'm a group team comic book reader. So I like to see those interactions. I like to see that interplay. And I think they've done a really good job of giving the supporting characters enough depth that you're not like, oh my God, get off the screen so I can see my superhero. Mm-hmm. But nothing's going to match the kind of, you mentioned it on my show, the moment when Iron Fist ducks behind Luke Cage, you're like, oh, that's cool. That's very comic booky. That's, they're working together. I feel like that's kind of what drives me to superhero properties. And so that's what I'd like to see.
Yeah, seeing the next evolution of that, where they're this well-oiled machine, like you see in the beginning of Age of Ultron, for example. I mean, not the greatest example, but when you're finally seeing them all work together as a team, and they've been doing it for a while, I love that kind of stuff. I love coming back into a world where they've leapt ahead a little bit, and now we see, all those rough patches at the beginning are over. We don't need to deal with all the CW angst. We're all just working together towards this other threat. And
exactly.
I very much am looking forward to seeing what comes next, which I believe is going to be The Punisher is this fall. And then I don't know what the next one is. I don't know if it's Daredevil season 3.
I was looking this up the other day, and I'm trying to remember exactly what the order is. I want to say it's Jessica Jones, because I think that was bumping up filming wise right up with The Defenders.
Okay,
So
cool.
I'm pretty sure Jessica Jones is next.
I'm all for that too, because she had the most ambiguous of sort of the tease at the end of it's just, I'm back to business. And we're like, perfect, because now we don't need to deal with the Purple Man thing. We can go straight into what does Jessica Jones look like when she's working on a normal case. And I'm excited to see where that goes.
And can I just say, can I put a little plug in for Malcolm? I would have liked to see more Malcolm, because I think he's just kind of an interesting character.
I'll give you that. Yeah. Side characters in general, and definitely. Also, we got next to nothing of Trinity in this one, of Jerry Hogarth.
Oh, yeah. See, I don't know much of that character, period.
Her history is generally tied in with Iron Fist.
Okay.
And it was a male version named Jaron Hogarth or something like that, who was friends with Iron Fist dad, and we don't need to go into it because I think what they're doing on the shows is better. And I like having her as that character that's also sort of a connecting piece now between Daredevil, since Foggy is working for her, and Jessica Jones and Iron Fist. So
right.
I like that type of character exists out there.
All right, here's the rundown. Jessica Jones, this is from express.co.uk.
Okay.
Jessica Jones Season 2 will film back-to-back with The Defenders, so it is likely to be released at the start of 2018. This means that Daredevil Season 3 and Luke Cage Season 2 might not arrive until mid-2018 and early 2019. After Season 1 was mauled by critics, Iron Fist Season 2 looks set to be pushed back until 2019 if it is released at all.
Well, that's good, because that means they might just throw him into Luke Cage.
Yeah, and I think that's fine, because their series are back-to-back, so I don't think that would be a hard thing to do. And I did read somewhere, although I don't remember where, that they're going to try and do 2 new series a year.
Cool. I'm all for it. Any final thoughts that you had on The Defenders before we close out the show?
I enjoy it, and more, please. I know somebody the other day said that they were getting tired of superhero stuff, and I disagree with them. I will keep enjoying it if they keep putting it out.
Yeah, because there's so many other genres that you can dip into, and the comic book movies are finally figuring that out, where they're diversifying themselves and telling completely different stories that happen to feature superhero characters in them.
Absolutely.
So,
how about
wonderful.
you? Any final thoughts for you?
No, I agree with you. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do next. I did enjoy it for what it was worth, especially since I binged the whole thing at once. I'm sure I didn't have the same opinion as somebody who maybe took their time with the show. I binged it because I knew I wanted to record a review of it. So I'm sure my enjoyment was lessened somewhat by the fact that I trapped myself in front of the television for so many hours.
Right.
But yeah, I like that they're allowing themselves to spread out a bit. There was obviously a ton that I wanted to see that I didn't. Everything I thought would happen that I wanted to see happen didn't. Punisher didn't show up at the 11th hour. We didn't get to see Hellcat. We didn't get to see a whole lot more of Madame Gao's character development. We didn't get to see the love triangle, but that just means there's more places for these shows still to go.
Absolutely.
I hope it doesn't turn into a like Matrix sequels or like the Underworld movies where they set a great place for themselves to go and then they don't do that and they go in a completely different direction because there's a different executive producer or whatever. Because that's when you sit back and you're just like, why didn't you do the thing you said you would do? Because it would have been awesome.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I not to go back on anything, but I'm going to reiterate how much I love Madame Gao, and it was cool to see her kicking ass in this show.
Yes, we've taken everything we've said back. We want the next show to be just about Madame Gao.
Yes, I would watch that.
I tell you,
I would watch that.
Give me a whole season of Kingpin and Madame Gao, or Madame Gao and the Kingpin. I don't know what you would call it Kingpins, and
that would be wonderful.
Give us a series just about the villains. And if you had done that with Alexandra, maybe we would have cared about her a little more.
It's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Okay. Well, let's go into
All right.
the end. You want to bring us into the end of the show?
Sure.
Yes, do it.
End of show.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thank you. That is going to be it for this week. Our poll list for next week is going to be pulling out your favorite old DC read, because I believe what we're going to be talking about next week is certainly not going to be, I don't think, current DC stuff. I think we're probably going to be digging into our favorites from years past. So I want to hear what you guys have for favorite DC runs, and we will talk about them. Well, we won't talk about your suggestions because I'm going to have recorded this before you hear this. So never mind. But you guys can go and still read them, and I will talk to you guys on Twitter. More importantly, we get to talk about it on the subreddit, which is reddit.com/r/geek-to-geekcast. Where we have longer, more in-depth conversations about everything and post our episodes, and it's an absolute blast. And we can talk about the end of Game of Thrones, because that's the other thing I did since, we recorded your episode, Joe, was Game of Thrones ended, and I got to see the last episode, and I have so many different thoughts and things. So the subreddit, folks. Beyond that, you can find us at Comic Box Cast on Twitter. You can find me personally at Nobi. Email us at thecomicboxpodcast@gmail.com, or find out about all of our shows. I don't know if it's updated yet by the time you hear this to include Tea Time, but that is geektogeekcast.com. Joe, where can our listeners find you?
Well, my podcast is Geektitude, and it is at geektitude.com. You can find me on Twitter at Geektitude or at Epic Grays, which is my personal account. And that's it. I've got us. I think my next episode is going to be actually an Adventure Zone episode, talking about the Adventure Zone. So,
oh, that's cool.
Yeah, because I'm going to need to decompress it and unpack it and mourn it for being over.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to that. Thank you so much for joining me this week.
Thanks for having me.
You are absolutely welcome. And that is it, everybody. We are closing the comic box, and we will see you guys next time with a ba-da-ba-ba-doo-ba-bow-ba-da-doo. The comic box. Defenders over now. What's next? We don't know. Dap-dap-dip-a-dap-dap-doo-down. Dip-a-dip-a-dap-ba. Give me a chicka-chicka.
Chicka-chicka.
Yes.